Coming up on the November 6th edition of Carolina Week. This election was one for the history books, but this year it's not because of voting mishaps.
Plus, in a Carolina Week exclusive, find out why some students are upset about the computers they bought through the university.
Coming up, the interesting story about one of Carolina's most storied athletic families.
All that and more.
Carolina Week starts now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening, I'm Erin Dupois, filling in for Jenny McClendon.
And I'm Alex Lawson. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Carolina Week.
The big national story, the Republicans retain control of the House and take control of the Senate.
Part of the reason for that, the election of Elizabeth Dole, the first woman to represent North Carolina in the U.S. Senate.
More about the elections in a moment, but first, important information for Carolina students. Michael Handy joins us now. He's been looking into the cost of the laptop computers all incoming students must purchase.
Michael, what have you found out?
Well, what we've uncovered is somewhat surprising. When students buy laptops through the Carolina Computing Initiative, they think they're getting a really good deal. But are they? These freshman students are picking up their new IBM laptop computers as part of the Carolina Computing Initiative. This is the first laptop many of them will own. But is CCI providing students with the best computer at the best price? Information and Library Science professor Greg Newby says no.
When you go to the UNC CCI pages, what it tells you about is how good it is and what a good idea it is to buy the CCI laptop from UNC. It really goes into no education or detail on why it might be a good deal, on how it might compare to deals you might get elsewhere.
Because CCI doesn't provide students with information about how other laptops compare to its IBM T30, we did our own investigating. We hit the phones and went to the web, building computers at Dell, Gateway, and Compaq. Here's what we found. A comparably equipped Dell laptop will cost you a bit less than $1,600. Compaq's model comes in at $1,649, and Gateway's 450L rounds out the list at $1,875. Compare that to CCI's computer, which has a base cost of almost $2,600. And if you bought the T30 direct from IBM, you could save more than $200. So what's the bottom line? CCI's computer cost anywhere from $224 to nearly $1,000 more than the other computers. Junior Emily Hodges regrets buying a CCI laptop.
I guess you feel kind of ripped off because they made it sound like you were getting a really good deal, that IBM was giving them this great discount for using their computers, and it ended up being so much more than everything else.
Freshman Kylie Stott looked into other options, but she still bought a CCI laptop.
It's just the easiest thing, especially because we thought maybe we'd be using it more in our classes, so we wanted to use something that maybe the other students and the teachers would be using.
But Stott says she hasn't used the laptop in any of her classes. She now wishes she'd looked into other options before buying the CCI laptop. CCI officials declined our request for an on-camera interview, but I did sit down with CCI's chairman, Steve Gerald, Wednesday morning. He told me that IBM does make a cheaper model, but CCI officials picked a more expensive one because they thought it would be more durable. And Gerald says he's very interested in our investigation, especially the price that IBM quoted on the T30. He says he's going to call IBM and find out why it's cheaper.
Well, Michael, did he say anything about why CCI's price might be higher than other brands?
Well, he said that CCI signed a contract with IBM that has a fixed price, and instead of changing that price each year, they add more features to the computer to make it fit the price. And coming up next week, we're going to look more closely at that contract and find out why CCI continues to pay that price.
All right, thanks for that report, Mike. Appreciate it. In this week's Speak Out segment, we asked students, are you happy with your CCI laptop?
I think it's easy to use and it has a lot of good programs on it, and I can just bring it with me anywhere and just do my work like wherever I am.
I think it's a great initiative that everyone has similar computers or has a computer at all. The only thing I would disagree with is requiring the students buy the same computer from the same manufacturer.
I take a lot of pictures with a digital camera, and its capabilities of handling pictures, its speed at doing that, and the software that it comes with as far as handling pictures is wonderful.
Our sample isn't scientific and shouldn't be taken as a reflection of widespread opinion on campus.
Now back to politics and the shift of power in Washington, D.C. Along with Elizabeth Dole's historic win against Erskine Bowles comes a big game for the GOP in the U.S. House and the Senate. This is the only time that a first-term Republican president has not lost congressional seats in a midterm election. Even though Dole is the big winner, she did it without much help from Orange County voters, as Bowles beat Dole by almost a 2-to-1 margin in Orange County. Michael McKnight is the North Carolina State Chair for College Republicans. He says the group focused on Republican voters everywhere but Orange County.
If people wanted to register to vote in their hometowns and stuff like that, I encourage them to do it, because their vote really won't make a difference here. They're going to elect a nut job no matter what we do.
The Carolina poll, conducted by Carolina faculty and students, was almost exactly right about the Senate race. The poll had Dole winning by 8 points. The final margin was 9 points.
Many people are still eating leftover Halloween candy, but some are starting to think about eating better, including organic foods. What Carolina Week's Stephanie Lockwood tells us, just because a product is organic doesn't mean it's safe.
Something new is sprouting in the supermarket, labels that indicate national standards for products sold as organic. The labels are a result of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Organic Standards Act. Foods that are 100% organic will carry the USDA seal. Products containing at least 95% organic contents will be labeled organic, and products that are at least 70% organic will carry a Made with Organic Content seal. Products carrying the labels must be produced without hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, or genetic modification. Weaver Street Market shopper Laura Thomas says she buys organic produce because it hasn't been tainted with pesticides.
I just figure it's safer, the fewer chemicals that we take in.
But UNC nutrition professor John Anderson says there's no evidence proving that organic produce, like this onion, which was treated with fertilizer, is safer to eat than this pesticide-treated onion.
Any food can be contaminated somewhere along the line of from seed to final fruit or vegetable.
For example, Anderson says the cow manure organic farmers use to fertilize crops is the primary hiding place for E. coli bacteria. So organic or non-organic, you have to be safe when preparing food.
If you can wash the foods and keep them reasonably clean, you should be able to avoid contamination.
In Chapel Hill, I'm Stephanie Lockwood, Carolina Week.
Anderson says whether you pick organic or non-organic products, the important thing is to eat the right amount of fruits and veggies.
Female faculty at Carolina receive less pay than their male counterparts, according to a study presented to the Faculty Council on Friday. The study shows that overall, male faculty members in academic affairs receive about $1,300 more each year than female faculty members. In the School of Medicine, the disparity is much larger, close to $7,000 a year. Bernadette Gray Little presented the study. She says it's the first step toward finding the underlying issues.
It points to the need to find out what the nature of this difference is and whether it is attributable to other factors related to productivity or whether it has some gender solely, some basis solely in the gender.
The study also found differences for minority faculty, but they were inconsistent across disciplines.
The new Minority Report is out, and no, we're not talking about the Tom Cruise movie. In an annual survey of U.S. News and World Report's top 25 universities, UNC Chapel Hill ranks first in the admission of African American students. The study was conducted by the Journal of Blacks for Higher Education. It reports that black students make up about 12.5% of Carolina's 2002 freshman class. This is the fourth straight year UNC Chapel Hill has posted a #1 ranking. Stanford, Duke, Virginia, and Michigan round out the top 5.
Studying and college go hand in hand, but it doesn't come easily to all students.
There may be a reason you have trouble concentrating.
Advice for women who want to find that special someone. Be active. Stay fit. Eat right. Don't smoke. Take good care of yourself. And you'll increase your chance of being around to meet the love of your life.
Grandma!
Learn more about reducing your risk of heart disease and stroke. Contact the American Heart Association.
I wonder how Silent Sam feels about guarding the university from groups of third-grade kids. Maybe he's lost interest. We haven't heard his rifle fire recently. Still he stands, a steadfast defender of something. What is it? No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, affects 2 million children in the U.S. Medical reporter Michael Bailey says it can also be a big problem for college students.
For many people, a quiet library is a great place to study. But for Carolina junior Luke Selden, the library isn't quite enough.
I usually need some place that's quiet but doesn't have the little shuffling of paper.
Selden was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 10. Symptoms of ADHD can include not paying attention, being fidgety, making careless mistakes, and having poor organizational skills. Medications like Ritalin are one way to help cope with ADHD. Take people who wear glasses. Without them, things look blurry and out of focus. When you put on the glasses, it's a lot easier to see, and things are more in focus. For people who have ADHD, Ritalin kind of acts like the glasses. It helps them focus. But not all people with ADHD take Ritalin, and some adults have ADHD and don't even know it. Carolina graduate student Joel Peck was diagnosed with ADHD a year ago. He was 22.
Some of my high school teachers even suggested I had it, but I wasn't, I didn't want to kowtow down to that.
Psychologist Jody Dawson says therapy for students with ADHD includes help with organizational and study skills.
They've known for years that there's something not quite right that's getting in their way, but have never been able to fully understand what that is.
The first steps to understanding the problem are recognizing the symptoms and seeking professional help. In Chapel Hill, I'm Michael Bailey, Carolina Week.
This is National ADHD Awareness Week. If you think you have ADHD, contact the UNC Learning Disability Services at 137 East Franklin Street.
Some students are taking Ritalin to help them fight ADHD, but Carolina Week's Jenny McLennan tells us others are taking it to help their GPAs.
Exam season brings students to the library, armed with soft drinks and coffee to help them stay awake and study. But more and more, college students are skipping the caffeine and taking something stronger to help them cram. Ritalin, a stimulant prescribed to treat ADHD. Ritalin aids concentration, making studying easier. One Carolina student, we'll call him Dave, has taken Ritalin before finals.
And if I feel like that's my only option or my best option to pass an exam or to get the grade that I need to get, then I'm going to do what it takes.
But psychiatrist Alan Hamrick says taking Ritalin as a study aid is a bad option.
If you abuse a stimulant, it's like going on a credit card spending spree.
Hamrick says Ritalin sprees aren't uncommon on college campuses, including Carolina.
It's not uncommon for those individuals to be asked by other people, can I have some of your Ritalin because I need to stay up and study, things like that.
The Drug Enforcement Administration lists Ritalin as a drug of concern. It's known to have a high potential for abuse, and since 1995, it's topped the DEA's list of most stolen medications, with abusers swiping the drug wherever they can find it. Dave says finding the drug at Carolina isn't hard if you want it.
There are people that get it prescribed that realize that there's a market for it, that they can sell it per pill or sell it by the bottle.
But Hamrick says while getting the drug might be easy for abusers, getting off of it isn't.
They would experience the same types of symptoms as someone coming off of cocaine, which would be feeling slow, feeling depressed, feeling a craving of they can't be themselves without that.
That was Jenny McLennan reporting. If you or someone you know has a problem with Ritalin or any other substance, help is available on campus. Call the Center for Healthy Student Behaviors at 966-6586 or drop by. And our weather anchor Kelly Mahoney joins us now, and it is kind of chilly outside last week for Halloween it was.
I was absolutely freezing in my costume.
Yeah, already this season we've been hit by a few blasts of cold air, and even this week it's going to get cooler before it starts to get warmer. But good news is on the way. The weekend forecast is features some beautiful fall weather, and we'll talk all about that in just a few seconds. But first, let's go to this week's weather question, which is, what effect does El Nino have on North Carolina's winter? Does it make it colder and drier, colder and wetter, warmer, or does it provide improved air quality? I'll have the answer to that weather question and your weekend forecast just after the break.
Excuse me, do you guys get tested for HIV?
Tested for HIV? No way, man. That's just not where we're at right now. It's just about us and our music.
What you doing to me? What you doing to me?
Women today are fighting for their lives. More than half of the new HIV infections are among women. And if you don't think you're at risk, think again. I'm Rebecca Armstrong, and I am one of more than 1 million Americans living with HIV today. I got infected because I didn't think I was at risk. But I'm alive today because I got tested and I got treatment. Do yourself a favor. Get tested for HIV today. You can call this number for more information to find out where.
Hi, and welcome back to Carolina Week. Well, a passing cold front has helped to usher in some cooler temperatures and windy conditions. The strong breeze the system left in its wake is helping to strip the trees of their colorful leaves right as the foliage change in our area is nearing its peak. Well, how is the rest of the state looking in terms of the fall foliage change? Let's take a look out towards the mountains. We are actually past our peak. Here we go. In the foothills, like areas just east of the mountains like Hickory, North Carolina, they're right at their peak and looking very, very pretty with bright reds and yellows on the maples and oaks. And here in the Piedmont, in the Triangle, like I said, we're nearing our peak in the next week or two. We should start to really transition into those very vibrant colors that everyone likes to see in the fall time. Well, if we take a look at some of the average numbers for November, here we are in the first week already. The average high is 62 degrees. The average low is 39. The record is at 88 for the high, chilly 11 for the low. The average amount of rain and snow together that we tend to see almost 3 inches, and on average we see about 0.2 inches of snow in November. So yes, even here in Chapel Hill, snow is possible in November, so we'll want to stay tuned and see if there's a chance this year. If we take a look though at the satellite map, there's certainly no chance of snow in our forecast lately. As you can see, skies are clear behind this nice cold front signature off to our coast. It has really brought in about a couple of inches of rain in 24 hours over the last day or so, and out to the west you can see some low thin clouds about to move through our area. However, stationed behind it is a huge dome of high pressure, and that's really going to be the major player in our forecast. If we take a look at the forecast map, you can see here's that cold front. It's pushing off the coast and very windy, dry conditions behind it. So you're really going to feel that breeze keep up as we head into Thursday and Friday, and the weekend is just looking fantastic. Your Carolina Week 4-day forecast features sun, and more sun. On Monday we start to fill in with a little bit of clouds, but who wants to think about Monday when your weekend looks like this? 65 degrees on Friday, 69 on Saturday, lows chilly on Friday and Saturday, but warming up as we head through the weekend. A chilly 32 on Friday, 39 on Saturday, Sunday. More sun, 72 degrees with a low of 47. Once again on Monday as we start to move into that next system, might start to cloud up, but once again a beautiful weekend is on tap. If you're planning on going down to the beach, you can expect sunny skies on Saturday, a high of 68 degrees, a low of 45. On Sunday, a few clouds might start to filter in, but a high of 72 and a low of 51. If you're headed out to the mountains, it's still looking pretty out there with the color change. High of 60 degrees on Saturday with partly cloudy skies. Clouds start to fill in on Sunday. A chance of rain as that next system approaches. High of 58 degrees and a low of 42. And if you're going to be here in Chapel Hill for the football game on Saturday, it'll be played at noon. And a beautiful football forecast as well. Sunny skies and 66 degrees. So it's going to be just great. You couldn't ask for more perfect weather for a football game, that's for sure. And if we get back to this week's weather question, what effect does El Nino have on North Carolina's winter?
You know, I don't know if this is just wishful thinking, but I'm going to say warmer.
Unfortunately, no. In fact, it's colder and wetter. So if you like snow, that's good, but that's what we're in store for as we're heading into a period of El Nino. So you might get to see some of the white stuff this summer. Who knows?
All right, thanks, Kelly.
Sure.
Mr. Broders joins us now with sports. Speaking of cold weather, basketball is right around the corner, and the blue and white game was last weekend. Great attendance.
It was great attendance, and coming up on sports, this man was one of college basketball's greatest players and has the ring to prove it. His story next.
That was the last time I went out with a Marilyn. Ay, ay, ay. It's not worth the pain, but Julio's different. Music, flowers, no why. My luck, he got hit by a bus.
Excuse me, have you taken an HIV test?
An HIV test? Are you kidding me? You know what gets me hot, Carlos? Oh, baby, baby, I don't know what to say anymore.
The steps of Wilson Library receive no sunshine on early winter mornings, so it's chilly there if you don't have that double-shot caramel espresso. Surrounded by forever green magnolias, the steps are a fine place to study, or at least pretend to, while you watch a border collie chase a frisbee in the quad. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
And welcome back to Carolina Week Sports. The men's and women's swimming and diving teams each hosted dual meets over the weekend at Cordy Natatorium. The men's team took on 5th-ranked Minnesota in the 2-day event. Carolina diver Eric Poitras took 3rd in the 1-meter and 1st in the 3-meter. But it wasn't enough as the heels fell to the Gophers. The women were a different story. Several strong performances in swimming events helped the heels to a victory against Michigan. One record of note fell during the meet. Junior Kelly Weeks broke the ACC record in the women's 200-yard butterfly that had stood for 17 years. Well, with no higher than a 4th-place finish in any tournament this fall, the women's golf team looked to end the fall season with a strong showing at the Pine Needles Invitational. Carolina and NC State co-hosted the tournament held at Southern Pines. The Heels got that strong showing and more as they overcame a 3-shot deficit to NC State to win the tournament by 8 strokes. Carolina golfers Abby Spector and Ashley Prang took the top 2 spots in individuals. The team now has a break until the spring when play picks back up in March. Jordan, Carter, Taylor, Ham, all famous athletes who played at Carolina. But Carolina Week Sports' Steve Lyerly takes a look at the player who started a family tradition in UNC sports.
Carolina alumnus Lee Schaffer may be a sharp dresser, but that's not the reason he surfaced in last month's issue of GQ. He was listed for his involvement in one of professional sports' most infamous trades, being dealt for basketball icon Wilt Chamberlain. And it's just one of many brushes with history for Schaffer, and it all began about 50 years ago.
Standing in front of Woolen Gym, where I arrived as a freshman in 1956, Frank McGuire had assembled a group of players here that were going to make college basketball history.
And they did. The Tar Heels won the national title in 1957. However, Schaffer was stuck on the freshman squad with the other recruits, and they gave the champions all they could handle in scrimmages.
And of course, the scrimmages were very heated because we wanted to make an impression, and many times Coach McGuire had to stop the scrimmage.
Former UNC coach Dean Smith remembers trying to lure the Pittsburgh prep star to play elsewhere.
I was recruiting him for the Air Force Academy, and then at the last minute, Coach McGuire and Duke started recruiting him, and in the end, he fortunately came to Carolina.
And thank goodness, Schaffer went on to lead UNC to the top of the ACC, winning Conference Player of the Year honors, later establishing himself as a leader in the business world.
When I accepted an opportunity to go into business with Frank Keenan here in Chapel Hill, and we formed Keenan Transport Company,
which has grown to become the leading petroleum transporter in the nation. But the story doesn't end there. The Schaffers aren't just one Carolina legend, they're a lineage. However, son Lee, a former Carolina football star, didn't feel threatened about living up to the family name.
Well, I was fortunate playing football, and I think that I never really felt the pressure to succeed in that sense.
He did anyway, captaining the '81 squad. However, Schaffer's second son's luck ran out at Carolina when a certain freshman stepped on campus in the fall of 1981.
Our second son, Dean, he was a member of the 81 and 82 North Carolina basketball teams, but he ran into a log jam at the two-guard position because a player named Michael Jordan was really too good for anybody.
Maybe the next Schaffer will make just as big a splash as Jordan did.
I have a daughter who's 18, and she plays volleyball. Actually, my wife coaches the Riverside volleyball team. They won the state 4A championship last year. And I have a son who's 16 who hasn't really decided what sport he enjoys playing. He scored his first high school touchdown.
Behind me hangs the jersey of Lee Schaffer here in the Dean Smith Center. Now, neither he or any of his kids actually played in this arena as Tar Heels, but who knows? Maybe the next part of the Schaffer line will. In Chapel Hill, Steve Liley, Carolina Week.
Lee Schaffer has a grandson named Schaffer, who sure looks like he's going to have the body to be a big-time athlete. Well, several Tar Heels received ACC Player of the Week awards for their performances. Kelly Weeks won the swimming award for a record-breaking performance. Forward David Testo was co-player of the week in soccer for scoring 2 game-winning goals. And outside hitter Laura Green got the nod in volleyball for her 2 double-doubles. Congratulations to those athletes. Well, guys, coming out of sports, let's not forget, I know our football team's been pretty horrible this year. 2-7. We're awful, I know. It's been bad. But final game is at noon against Clemson on Saturday, and I don't know about you, I'm a senior, so be happy to kind of one last game. And following that is the EA All-Star Challenge at 4:30, so maybe the men's basketball team will make us a little more happy going into the winter.
Okay, thanks a lot, Brett. Many charities hold walks to raise money.
But one group has a new take on an old theme. We'll tell you more when Carolina Week returns.
That he's not going to be there only for one night. Are you going to take it away? Correct, James.
Excuse me, ladies. Have you been tested for HIV?
Tested? You don't mean like each time. Oh, no. Like how often? Do you get tested?
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNCCH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
They say that a dog is a man's best friend, and in a recent walk for charity, that proved true.
Jay Biggio has the story.
It's not a 5K, but these canines are putting their best paw forward to raise money for multiple sclerosis research. More than 100 dogs and their owners came to Chapel Hill Saturday for the first ever MS Pooch Parade. The dog walk was sponsored by the Eastern North Carolina chapter of the National MS Society. Robin Botcher helped plan the event. She says the originality of the walk was one reason for its success.
There's a lot more competition now with every charity, it seems, having a walk. And we had a lot of interest in this kind of an event with a sort of a walk with a twist on it.
A walk with a twist and some very interesting guests, including a clown with balloons, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and even an entire family dressed like Superman.
I think it went great. All the dogs seemed to get along well, and everybody was, the stations were well set up. The dog treats were great.
And thanks to dogs like Shelby, money raised today will give people with MS the chance to own their own dog. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jade Biggio, Carolina Week.
Organizers awarded prizes for human pet lookalikes and smart dog tricks.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. We'll see you back here next week.
Have a good night and a good week. We'll see you back here next week.